the data? Where does it reside? Do the quality guys own it? Does customer service own it? And that tier one then can come in and piece those together and do it in such a way that is not, certainly not threatening to the OEMs, because the OEMs are the kings, right? They source the systems, they build the systems. So it's clearly a very, very different business model than we move forward.
I do see that if the OEMs, they have a wish list. Do you see a risk here that the tiers will try to say, yeah, our system actually can make that, that the OEMs also don't really know what they ask for? Because I think that is a risk. Anyone?
So I don't know if that's a risk. It seems that, and I will say from us as an EDA vendor, we're under whatever the last tier is, we're kind of underneath that. So whatever that is. But it's interesting. I think what we've seen right now, because of what you just mentioned, is we see a lot of collaboration that we haven't seen in the past. We've rarely seen an OEM come and talk to a tool vendors like us or Cadence or Mentor, but now we do see it because they do want to know, how can you help me in my situation? I don't know much about what you do, but this is a brand new system, and we see that the OEM and the tier one and the tier two semi and his tool vendors are all sitting down on the table making this decision, what can be done and what can we do today and what can we do tomorrow. So that's pretty unique. It's pretty new. We haven't seen that. I mean, 10 years ago you didn't see that. Today I think you can see the OEMs, yourself, the tier one sitting down with a much broader spectrum at the table, not just who were your first connector point. So it's very interesting. I think because of that, we're actually seeing a lot more innovation.
Yes, as a direct tier one supplier to GM, obviously Bridgestone's core business is tires, so obviously we're heavily involved with the OEMs. I mean, everything the OEMs do is basically the downstream for everything we do. We help them at an OEM level as well as an aftermarket. And I think what Kenneth said in the beginning is that it definitely has to morph and has morphed to a partnership of kind of give and take. Because in a lot of times, our OEM division, works closely with the automotive manufacturers to tune the performance characteristics of a car by using the tire. So that, that's a huge challenge for both of us to get to that perfection. I also believe that there's the standardization is a challenge as well. With OEM and tier ones, because in many cases, Bridgestone has the largest retail footprint of aftermarket auto stores. So, we're constantly challenged with a good example, TPMS. There's dozens of TPMS protocols out there. So, the consumer brings in, and we're having to have all kinds of equipment to try to fix this. Some of them we can, some of them we have to send back to the dealer. Just so something so simple as a TPMS, the frustration and the difficulty level on the aftermarket side, I think it was kind of mentioned a little earlier, is very, very challenging. I believe that has to get fixed. If we don't fix that, it's going to be a disruption to the adoption rate for sure. Because the consumers it's one thing to talk about a TPMS sensor, but when 60-70% of your vehicle is software and sensors, and everything you do is a headache. You have to go here to get this done. You have to go over here to get this done. You have to get this. That's not going to go very well with the consumer. So, but I believe, Ken, I mean, the relationships are there. They're building. They're becoming more open. I guess probably the best word to use.
Should we have a new topic, or do you have something that considerably adds there? Okay, then I move to, you can introduce a question, of course.
Yeah, the topic on suppose that we do have the software that has It's a software-intensive system, so the next question comes, are you preparing, from what you see your vantage point, is the industry preparing for a massive logistical efforts of dealing with software upgrade, of receiving various incident reports from the field, not necessarily in litigation sense, but people just reporting, I charged this way or the car did that way and I think otherwise. So is there any efforts with real-time software update, map update, anything of that nature that you will be faced with when you deploy such software in the cars?
Yes. Yes. The answer is yes. The initial, alarm spot for software is infotainment. Now with autonomous and reconfigurable instrument clusters and all these other high-end, high-value functions, the amount of software in the car is exploding. So yes, there are companies that are making just their business around automotive software over-the-air updates, and the whole industry is mobilizing towards how can you do these fixes in an efficient, economical manner, and as software becomes a bigger portion of the dealership visits or the potential dealership visits, it would be much better to fix those while the car is sitting in a garage or driving down the road. So I can safely say just about every OEM is addressing that problem right now.
You're right, there's obviously continuous improvements as you find these. There will always be software updates. There's many areas in there, right? Because it would be great if we could just download these software updates while you're in your garage. But, obviously privacy concerns, it is your car. You can say whether you want a software update or not. Who am I at GM to tell you you must make this software update, right? So usually there has to be consent on the customer side. And you get into any other regulations and agreements we have with dealers, right? Because now you're taking money out of their pockets because they're the dealers and they're your car partners. Don't they have to bring the car in? Take it out. So I'm not into all that, but I'm sure there's a lot of legal contracts that are everywhere that determine how and when we can do these type of things. We talk about maps. I mean, look at construction. Obviously, the maps are going to be updated. So I would hope if you have a car that drives autonomously and things moved around, that you would have an updated map. You're not driving to a map from 10 years ago. So, because that may not be what you would like. Those are just my thoughts. I would imagine there's a lot of software updates that would be necessary, and how that rolls out. Maybe it comes like Larry said, just to the regulations and some consistency. I mean, when he talks about all these different TPS sensors, to me that's just crazy that you would have all these and you'd have to have different equipment to do the different sensors. It would seem like there'd be some standard regulations saying, here's the way we should do DPMS sensors. So that, whether I decide to go to an aftermarket or dealer or whatever, it's consistent.
Okay.
So one of the things that I wonder about, if they're going to start to address software updates, and we said, there's privacy concerns, but if, let's say that you sign up when you do your car, let's say that there is a software update, and it is, of course, becomes safety critical. It's a safety critical function that's going to be updated, that the OEM or whoever wrote the software, who's ever in charge of that system, says this is critical, it needs to go into your car. I think that there's going to be some determination now that we have so much software, and so much software being in a safety critical application. I think there will, it's my opinion, I think there will be ways that you sign up for that if it's deemed safety critical by somebody, or we all agree who that is, but if it is deemed safety critical, and then it's pushed into your system, it doesn't have to be pulled in by yourself. So I can see that happening not only in cars, but I can see that happening in other type of industrial applications where it's critical.
The key is usually you need to buy in from the customer. Usually you need to buy in from the customer. So if he's a Cadillac customer, the first guy can sign up for all that, and then he resells the car, but the second guy didn't sign those contracts. So how do you follow that up and you get the second person, right? Because you can't just say, well, it's safety critical, you gotta take this. You know, that's the wonderful thing about the United States, you don't have to take anything. So, you've gotta get there by.
You can always change that too, right?
Well, you can.
I think you got something to say here.
So we actually talked about this at CES, at the Cybersecurity Council discussion that was hosted by Geneva and the SAE. And we had David Strickland, who was the former NHTSA secretary or director. But we were positing a world where when your car gets stopped for whatever reason, infraction of a tire, bad design, your police officer will also have, very similar to the cafe group, a little OBD dongle will go and read and compose process. And if your vehicle is not quote unquote hygienically to date, you will lose the privilege to have that vehicle on the road. Unlike what you just said, actually in the United States, most states do have requirements for vehicle worthiness. The vehicle has to be roadworthy in order to be on the road. It can be pulled from the road if it's not roadworthy. EPA regulations, catalytic converters, others. We've gone through buyback. I don't know what the answer is. There was a world where we're positing that there might have to be a hygienic level for your exact reason of a customer given the option to take software or not take software may or may not be the right decision point if said software is in fact critical systems, safety systems, or other. It was a positive position, yeah.
I would agree with what you said, John, that there are consequences for actions. You don't have to take it. You could lose the vehicle, but you don't have to take it. There are always consequences for your actions and everything. That's your choice. Now, if you say, well, okay, in that case, I'll take it so I can drive the car, well, see, now your mind has been changed. I think all of those are all very useful for this, and I don't know which would be more inhibiting. V2X, I think, is great. I don't know that it has to be tied to autonomous driving. Maybe in the future, when you get to the real level 4, where it's all completely autonomous, it's going to be more helpful because you at least see what's coming down the road. But all of those are very important parts for autonomous driving, and I'm not sure any of them. It's a consistency in standards. Like right now, we talk about standards, and there are 6 states that have enacted automated driving. We talked about this at lunchtime. 6 states that have autonomous driving regulations, but not a federal regulation. And GM would really like a federal regulation because as you drive from Maine to New York or whatever, when you hit a state line, we don't want to have to change our driving behavior because, now I have a new set of autonomy rules. So I can't drive like I used to. I have to drive a different way. And I think that will, really that's one thing where it should be at a federal level is what we're looking at. And then that way you just drive through all the states in the same method because crossing state lines could be hectic. And it's really just going to disrupt the development of technology.
Yeah, I would kind of bolt on a little bit to the V2V, V2X is obviously important. But one thing that we've seen is that the LTE coverage, we talked a little bit about it earlier today, is that with autonomy, it's going to use the cellular network to the GPS platforms and all the other things. Even semi-autonomous is going to do that. So you take that, and then if you free a driver up, now they have free time on their hands. What do you think they're going to be doing? They're going to be on their phone. So it's going to be a double hit to the cellular coverage, for that. So, and then you can even go to the next level is look at the amount of streaming that's going on in homes. Your cable networks and all that. You've got Apple TV coming out. You've got, everything is going digital. So it's all going to be streaming through the air. So, I'm a technical guru on it, but so the bandwidth, so to speak, coming through the sky, it has got to change, or it's got to really be revamped. Can you hear me now? Right? What's that going to look like when you're driving your car and well, I can't hear you anymore. So what's that going to be like? So I think that the shifts in data usage is going to change, because it's going to go from, right now, I believe peaks are in the evening hours between 8 and 9. That's kind of when most cell companies feel the most impact. Well, it's probably going to go to peak driving times. Probably going to go to, when people commute. So what is that going to do? And how is that going to disrupt? That's going to be a certain ripple throughout, throughout everything. So I think there's going to need to be some alignment there.
I remember the first frost night 2 years ago when I got the car, and I heard from Volvo that almost no engine heater, what do you say, started up because everyone tried to connect at the same time and then warm the engine up because we have very cold winters in Sweden. But if you look at the availability from these services, cloud, GPS, V2X, how much autonomous can we have without these, or what should we focus on? How should we regard these? The grade of autonomous and cloud, GPS, and V2X, what is possible or not?
It's going to be an interesting mix of how much real-time processing you want to rely on versus onboard sensor, relying on onboard sensor data with regard to cloud. GPS can always be improved, but I think that's fine for now. And how much you rely on the V2X, but with everything that's going to evolve, the networks are going to get faster, more reliable, hopefully, and at that point, more reliance on the onboard real-time diagnostics and things like that, right? So I don't think there's one answer, but it's going to be it's going to start with mostly onboard with some connections offboard to probably primarily focusing on 50/50 onboard.
Well, just kind of extension of that is that the cellular services companies are going to certainly change. They're growing just as we are, and right now, the vehicles that are out there that can actually do what we're talking about is pretty minimal. GPS is about the only thing that's really being used, and I think that's being proven that it works through our cellular phones because everybody's got one of those. So I think by the time it really becomes a problem, that the cellular companies will get that problem resolved. I believe 5G. I've read some things that it's going to be by 2019 that there'll be a pretty good amount of 5G coverage throughout the U.S. Of course, in other markets I can't speak to, but I think by the time vehicles are out there that they're actually pulling that bandwidth, that I think they'll get that fixed. So I don't really think that's going to be an issue.
Neither do I. So moving over to security, as was discussed a little bit in the morning. Please consider it for a few seconds. Security, autonomous. Oops, I'm telling you. I mean, how do we keep the troll behind the bars? Okay, then it's okay.
I guess I'll just say a couple things from what we're looking at as a company. We're looking at it a couple different ways. One is how do we keep bad hardware from getting in the system? And whether people realize it or not, you can actually have hardware come out or be counterfeited and get into vehicles. And we've had many government systems already with complete fake hardware in it that Trojan horse is already planted. So it wasn't a software, it wasn't a hack, it was done way in advance. So we look at those kind of things and how can we help companies that are building the electronics in those systems, how do we make sure that there's no malicious hardware in there, right? And then we look at, what about software? How stable and how secure is your software? Can it be broken into? And if it is, can you figure that out? And then we look at, how do we continuously monitor the software to make sure that there are no bugs in it? So it's a multifaceted thing for security, and they're all extremely critical, and they all have to be handled almost simultaneously, if you will, in concert and platform. With the amount of software, I think the amount of onboard and constant checking that happens is going to be pretty extensive. I think we talk about self-testing and running all this self-test on our hardware, electromechanical systems. There's also going to be continuously self-checking of that. And back to our, can you download, that now you have a known bug. You know, some big virus just hit, and we now know that some car is susceptible. Can we push, can we push that fix into those cars so that, you know, they won't crash, or that bug is not there, or do we have to ask the driver? I mean, it's another security reason, but it becomes safety when now it becomes a safety issue, right?
Obviously, in light of some past events, you know, where they somehow they wired magazines, drove a car remotely, or whatever. I mean, there's going to be cybersecurity. There's going to have to be a lot more cybersecurity when you have a means to steer, brake, accelerate. I mean, yeah, with OnStar or whatever, where you lock and unlock doors, that's neat. But when you can actually brake and accelerate and steer a vehicle, and if the person is in a semi-autonomous mode where they're not necessarily have their hands on the wheels, and yet another reason to monitor to make sure that it's driving as you expect it to drive. But there will obviously be a lot of cybersecurity implementations, things implemented to keep that from happening, so people can come in remotely to do that.
So questions from the audience here? Security experiences? I see, yeah.
Just one quick comment.
Anyone interested in that subject can attend the session tomorrow afternoon at 2:15. And we have 4 expert panelists that can help address that question and any others you may have.
Thank you. So we're moving through here. Okay, safety. I mean, of course, we believe that autonomous cars will decrease accidents. But what is the paradigm shift? I mean, we have been talking about safe cars with good braking. It's very easy to control that, etc. But what is safety really? What are the challenges with having really safe autonomous cars here?
Fire and the road conditions, back to the vehicle in the future. That answer your question?
And it really is amazing how many sensors are in the car and how much data you can gather from those from a prognostics perspective. And even if you're not getting a warning code, again, back to the example from that JLR learning car, you can understand the driving habits of the driver, and you can see if those change over time. Maybe, the steering sensor is showing that he's driving at an angle. Maybe his car is no longer aligned. He hit that pothole. The tires are no longer aligned. So there are ways of deducing issues. First from diagnostic trouble codes, but second from checking today versus tomorrow, looking for differences.
And I guess I would go back to the first scenario. Our position is the driver is engaged in looking at the road and will be because of our implementation. So, plus they would notice, I would imagine, if they hit something like that, that still comes up through the car, you still feel it in the seat or whatever. There's some startle typically that you get when you hit that pothole. And then it would be up to a robust system to actually continue to analyze the data that it's getting to say, whether it can continue or not continue.
I just wanted to remark upon your question of whether you could have a driving mode of leisurely or sports behavior. So in the next generation of HERE maps, we will have a mapping of speed profiles, acceleration per block segment, so at least that information could be then used as a reference into the driving algorithm.
Okay. Was it a question? No, it was a good comment. Yeah. It's comment. Yeah. So do you expect something more on it? Otherwise, I see that the time is almost up, and I have one final short one. I mean, we are talking much about signing off for the safety case, and who should or who would or sign this safety case? Is it, how should we regard this issue? I mean, would it be someone that really likes to sign it, or would it be like a hot stone that people are throwing around?
It's a great question because I'll pick on my OEM friends here. I'll pick on kind of, the OEMs like to push that liability down to the tier ones, but there is a limit of liability, and ultimately from a litigation perspective, I think the OEMs ultimately will have to ensure that their suppliers and that their testing validation system is ensured to their end customer. That's one person's best.
I would expect the liability from the supplier's perspective would only be for whatever they're supplying, right? And we produce cars every day, and I fully expect if we produced a system, we would have the full faith to say it's been validated and that this is how it operates, and that we would be comfortable with it, or we wouldn't release it. We do that every day, and I mean, things go out there. Any of the safety systems, and they're out there and they're helping people every day.